You know, I do a lot of different type of food at home. I like to mix taste, and I like to do a bit of an unusual menu, and that's what we are doing today. You know, a type of potpourri, which is rolling melting pot USA. And even though I'm going to do a very classic, in a sense, fricassee of veal with rice, we're going to start with a ceviche, which is spelled with an S or a C, a type of raw fish mixture done in different parts of the world, particularly South America, very spicy and all this. Today I'm going to do that with scallop. I have a whole array of different things, from red onion, beautiful tomato, I have lime, I have hot pepper, lime juice, I have mint and coriander, which is called coriander or cilantro or Japanese parsley or Chinese parsley, and scallop. We're doing it with scallop too. As you can see here, I have some of the scallop with a little mussel on top of it. This I'm going to remove because it's a bit tougher, and we cut those mussels into pieces. The ceviche, of course, as we do often at home, I do a mixture of scallops, sometimes shrimp, and sometimes different type of fish, or doing it only with one or the other. The scallops are quite low in calorie, and that dish altogether is very low in calorie also, because we are not putting any oil or anything in it that very often I do, but not in that recipe. To make it easier, you know, I'm putting that directly into a plastic bag, a Ziploc type of bag, to make it marinate or macerate in it, you know. So what I have in there, I have some onion, you know, a lot of onion, the red onion, and I have, well, I have a tiny bit of sugar here to give me a certain characteristic with the sugar, some salt. We're not going to use any oil here. I put a bit of pepper in it, freshly ground black pepper, even though I will put some other seasoning. Here I have the cilantro and the mint that we're going to coarsely chop, you know, gathering it together and coarsely cutting it this way. The mint are really a very fresh, delicate taste, you know. And especially when you have hot pepper, I like hot pepper with the mint and the coriander. I mean, the combination is really terrific. So we put that in there. This can be done a few hours ahead, you know, so that it has the time to cook. When I say to cook, it means like the citric acid and acetic acid. I have vinegar here. I have a rice vinegar. You can use any other type of vinegar in it, actually. But, and lime juice. All of those are acids which are going to so-called, quote, cook the fish. It will set up the protein. It gets all whitish-like, you know, when it's been cooked this way. So there is different way of cooking, if you want. So we take the core of the tomato, cutting it in half, you know, parallel to the stem. I can spread this out and then cut that into little dice. That will again not only give me color and all that taste to this. Here I put that in there also. Okay. Then now I'm putting hot pepper, and this is jalapeno pepper. So you have to cut it, and you have kind of touch it to test it to see how hot they are. If they are really hot, this one is not that hot, then I remove the seed. I remove the seed and the rib inside. This is the hardest part. If they are not too hot, chop it fairly fine, put it in there, and a bit of lemon peel we put in there. And I usually use the skin, you know, of the lime here, which is very good. We put it together and making a fine julienne of this. You see? Here we are, in there. Then that's about all we want to put in there. I'll close it and toss it. This, as I say, has to stay a couple of hours. We don't have the time to let it. When it's finished, you put it back directly into your bowl to serve it, you know? And now what I would like to do is to show how to serve it with cucumber, you know, and we do cucumber that we peel, cut in half. And this is English cucumber, so you can leave the center of it. Cut it in pieces like that into little strips, like this. And we want to serve that as a garnish. So I will serve it here, doing little strip of this, 4 or 5 strips per person, like that, to do a decoration. And that's how you would want to serve your ceviche, you know, right in the middle of that with the juice and all, you know. And while this would be the first course of our meal, and now what I want to show you, the next course we're going to do a veal, and I want to show you how to season the veal. And what I have here are all array of different type of herb, you know. I have the herbe de Provence. Very often I was asked when I do classes or when I do show, I use herbe de Provence, and it's a mixture of thyme, savory, marjoram, and oregano. You already have those four. Then in addition, you can add, if you want, those are seeds, and those are, you can use anise seed or fennel seed. Those are fennel seed, sage, and finally rosemary. And sometimes even people put those little flowers of lavender. And what you do, you mix those together, you know. If you want to do your own, because you can buy it in the market, but it costs a little fortune, you know. So as I say again, those four are the must. Those other wine, you may add it if you want to. I like to mix a lot of different things. And even the flowers, as I say, of the lavender, which absolutely look beautiful. You know, this is a great thing to do for gift. You give that for friends for Christmas. You do little, you know, little jar, beautiful jar like that with a label on top, close it and offer that for Christmas. I think it's a great thing. Now, another seasoning that we use is what we call the bouquet garni. And the bouquet garni can be done dry. That is, you put a piece of cheesecloth and you put like peppercorn in it. Then again, dry herb. You see, you use it dry when you want to put it into a stew or something else and you want to be able to retrieve it. So you do your whole garnish of whatever you want, maybe a bay leaf. And all of those herbs, you know, I dry them in the microwave oven. Those actually, you know, you can tighten it up, and that's it. It can go into a stew and you can remove it at the end. Now, what we want to do is the regular bouquet garni, and that's done with parsley stem. That's when you use your parsley stem. Fresh thyme and bay leaf. That's basically what we use in France. Very often, you know, we put a piece of carrot, other things in it, but you don't really have to. Those three, you must, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this here, actually, to season the veal that we are going to do next. So this is my bouquet garni classic here, and we are going to season the veal with that. So here we have, I have a shoulder of veal, and the shoulder of veal is really very inexpensive, relatively inexpensive, and the best to do a stew because it's moist, it's tender. And what we want to do here, you know, we cut, you can do a beautiful roast with that, you know, but here we have a piece. I would want to remove most of the sinew, basically all the fat, you know, to give it pretty lean. Remember that the veal is quite lean, but you still have to remove most of the fat. And what I like to do is to cut it in fairly large chunks like this, 2 or 3 chunks per person. You know, we do in that recipe about 2 pounds, you know, and the piece cut in about 2.5 inches, you know, fairly large. That long sinew is very good in the middle because that turns into gelatin like when it cooks. So I have basically enough here. That's what I would have. And this, of course, I have some browning here. Is what I have here, browning, which is the same veal, very lean, with a little bit of olive oil, and that has been browning for the fricassee. What we do on top of that is to put onion, and I put a lot of onion in it, like 3 cups of onion, that will brown in there. Our bouquet garni, right in the middle, that will season it, and garlic. So I have a bunch of garlic here, 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. You know, again, we crush the garlic this way. I love to use garlic. You could even slice it here. It doesn't really matter. You don't really have to chop it very, very fine. Remember, it's going to cook a long time. My garlic. And then we use an old technique here, a French technique we call to singe. That is, it's a thickening agent to put a little bit of flour on top of the meat. This is a little bit what the Cajuns do when they do a roux. And we stir that together. You want to cook it, you know, a couple of minutes with the flour and really mix it well so the flour is nicely incorporated into it. Here I have here, we put our salt in it, water, you know, like a cup and a half of water. You don't want too much water because the meat will render a lot of water too. Now you cover it, and you want to cook it slowly. You want to bring it to a boil, and you want it to boil slowly for like an hour and a quarter. You know? Of course, I have one ready here after an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half. Here is about what it looks like. You know, as you can see, a lot of juice came out of it. I still have my bouquet garni here, which I could keep or remove most of the time. Of course, we remove it before we serve it. Those are nice spots. You can serve it directly at the table. And with that, now we do a garnish of tiny boiled onion. I have those tiny pearl onions, so-called. We peel them, put them with a bit of water, boil them 5-6 minutes. They are just about tender enough. That goes directly into my stew. I have button mushroom here, which I washed just before I'm using it. That goes directly into it too. And at that point, even though I could use it, this is perfectly fine this way, and often at home we do it this way, without any cream or anything. But if I want to be a bit fancier for the weekend, if I have guests and make it a bit richer, then I put a little bit of cream. You don't have to put much. I put about 1/3 of a cup of cream here. And 1/3 of a cup of cream, as you see, this is recipe for 4, but we are very generous here. That could be easily for 6. And basically, you know, you cover that and cook it for a couple of minutes. And as I say, you can leave even your bouquet garni in it. Cook it for a few minutes, and this is it. You can bring that directly to the table this way, and it's terrific. Now with this, what we are going to do is the rice, a special type of rice that I have here. I love those type of rice, and I have that pot that I'm going to cook here. And this is a small sautoir, again, a dash of olive oil in there. And we have here a special rice. You know, we have Wehani rice, and the Wehani rice is a red rice with all of the fiber outside. It has to cook a long time, at least an hour, you know, and it's very chewy and elastic. It's terrific, you know. So the Wehani rice actually is grown in California right here, very good rice. And I have pumpkin seed with it. Those pumpkin seeds are shelled, you know, of course, but without any salt or anything like that. The pumpkin seed is very, very high fiber that we have here, a lot of roughage, and onion. You know? I have a moe onion here, from Hawaii, a very sweet type of onion. And we slice it and chop it coarsely. You know, conventionally, when you cook rice, you always count approximately from 1.5 to twice the volume of your rice for liquid, which goes with it. The rice that we have in Europe, smaller rice like a borio, or in France we have small round rice in Camargue also, it's about 1.5 times the volume. That is, if you have 1 cup of rice like that, you have 1.5 cup of liquid, water, chicken stock, usually water. I'm putting that in there too. However, in conventional rice from California as well as other part of the South, you know, where we have rice, Carolina rice, it's usually 1 to 2. You know? By the time we get to those type of rice, it's like 2.5 times. I mean, I have a cup of rice here, and I have 2.5 cups of water. So that's what we have. We saute that for about a minute, you know, get some color and all that. I mix my rice in it, and that rice is going to be very chewy and elastic, you know. We put it here, and the water. That sounds like a lot of water, but believe me, you need that amount of water. A dash of salt, cover it, you bring it to a boil, and you boil it gently, gently for an hour and a half. And now, I have one which is ready here. We're going to serve it. I have the rice here, and as you see, which has been totally absorbed, you know, with the liquid. And our fricassee here, which is finishing cooking. So here, what you could do, you could serve it on a plate directly, arranging it on the outside, you know, to put your rice in the center, or you can serve it separate. You know, when you do this, one of the best ways really to put it right in the center. Don't worry about it, because after with the back of your spoon, that's when you start spreading out a kind of border that you do, you know. And You don't care whether the center is a little dirty, since it's going to be hidden with the stew anyway. So that's what I have here. I have my stew right there. I better take another spoon cleaner. I'm sure that those mushrooms cook another 2 or 3 minutes, but basically they look great to me. And this is what we are going to send. I have an interesting mixture because, I mean, my mother would probably recognize the stew, you know, as being a very country type of French, but I'm sure she's never tasted that rice. Or she may have had when she came to see me in Connecticut, but I don't remember. In any case, I'm sure she would love it. And as you can see here, we have quite a lot. What I have here would be more than enough for 4, and I still have some left right here. And now for our eclectic potpourri menu, we're going to do a dessert. We're going to do a classic dessert, which is a custard. You know, as we do in France, except we used to do it with the caramel underneath, which I've eliminated. And it's a very, very lean custard. I'm doing it with the skim milk and with 2 eggs for 4 people, a little bit of sugar, and it's even a bit too lean, so to make it a bit more luscious, we're putting a sauce on top. Of course, the sauce used to be chocolate sauce or custard sauce done with egg yolk and cream, and now what we're going to do is a fruit sauce with a little bit of cognac in it. But to start with, then very simply break 2 eggs in there. We can beat that directly with a fork. Be sure that you really mix it well, because you don't want pieces of egg white like this, you know. Those egg whites have to be totally separated, so you go from one hand to the other hand of your bowl. And that's it. Then the sugar in it, we have 1 cup and 3/4 of skim milk. All that is mixed together. And some vanilla. Now I have here, I could have take vanilla beans. You know, vanilla beans, of course, is absolutely terrific. And what you do, you have to keep it in sugar to flavor your sugar, or then you have to boil it in the milk to flavor the milk. Then you take them out, you dry them, and you put them back in your sugar. And you can use them for a while this way. When you finish use them, after a while they get too dry, you can put them in a little coffee grinder and make powder out of it and mix that with sugar again. We put here vanilla, you know, and make sure to use vanilla, not vanillin, I-N at the end. You want pure vanilla extract. Remember that vanilla is made of orchid, and there is many types of orchid. There is many types of vanilla, you know. Don't buy certain vanilla which come from South America, because sometimes there is coumarin in it, and coumarin is a blood thinner. And because the labeling is different than in the US, you don't know whether it's in it or not. So I try to avoid those type of vanilla. The vanilla extract we have here is in an alcohol base. But as I say, some from Europe, you can have them in powder or in a water base, you know, which is a bit different. So what we want to do there is to strain our custard directly on top of those little molds. Those little molds are 2/3 of a cup, about. So that's just about right to do 4 of those with our 1 cup and 3/4 of milk. I think this one needs a little bit from there. And we want to cook that. On the custard, we cook that with water around. Remember, it is important that is the heat transfer, what we call a bain-marie in France. So the bain-marie is when you put water around and the heat goes very slowly through the heat transfer. It goes slowly. If the water boils, this is going to cook too fast. If it cooks too fast, it's going to start expanding. That is, the albumin, which is the egg white, will expand. It's going to start going up, and when you unmold it, it's going to be like a sponge. All around, it's going to look like a sponge, so we don't want to. I'm going to bring that back in. You want to cook this there, and I want to show you, I have one here just cooked. I want to show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. And as you can see here, you know, it is just shaky a little bit. You should be able to put your knife in it and come out and be clean, you know. And that's tell you whether it's cooked or not. This one actually could take a little more cooking. You see on the side it's clean, in the center it's still a little bit wet. But it should be shaky like this. This has to cool off, you know, cool off before you can unmold it. And that's what we have here. We have some which are cold. So what we are going to do is unmold it, and to do that, you take it straight and you run your knife. Be sure to put your knife straight and move the little ramequin around. You know, people will have a tendency to put the knife on a slant and cut some of it, so your knife has to be really straight. Move it around. Put your plate upside down this way and turn it there, and you can shake it. Shake it and just hope that it's going to come down. What it needs is a bit of air, so sometimes you have to push it from the side to get air to go into it. And as we have here, we're going to do a sauce. The sauce that we have here is made of beautiful jam. See, the best sauce for me, fruit jam are going to be the best possible quality jam you can get. Here I have large piece in it, even of apricot. This is an apricot sauce. We want to dilute it with a little bit of cognac. You know, of course, if you don't have alcohol, then you forget the cognac. The cognac is a brandy from the area of France, which is called cognac, you know, and it can only be called cognac if it comes from there. I could even put a little bit of water in there. I have a little bit of water left, or a bit more cognac, but water will be fine. With my jam, and that makes a great fruit sauce, you know, any type of jam, any type of fruit for that matter. We want to put that on top of it. You know, and that, of course, even though the custard is not that rich, with this on top, it's going to come very nice and very rich. We're going to decorate that maybe with a tiny edible flowers here, which is beautiful. Maybe a bit of green. And now we have a splendid dessert to have with our fricassee of veal. And now it's time to eat. I'm going to take the custard with me. Proceed to the dining room. You know, I receive a lot of people at my house in Connecticut. And I cook, my wife cooks. Sometimes we fight a little bit over the stove, but not very often. I was born in France, but of course I've been here a long time. I'm an American citizen, but my wife, who was born in New York, is Puerto Rican and Cuban. So we have a lot of mixed friends. We have Jewish friends, we have Chinese friends, we have Belgian friends and so forth, and we try to mix and make people taste a bit of different type of cuisine, and that's what we have today with our beautiful ceviche here, spicy, you know, with a lot of acidity, no fat at all in it, very low calorie. You may or may not want to put the cilantro. If you find it that it's too strong, put another type of herb. Then we have our fricassee of veal, more in the French style. Remember, I put a little bit of cream, like a third of a cup for the whole thing, and you may want to omit it if you want, which will cut down on your calorie again. A very chewy kind of elastic rice goes so well with it. And with that, of course, we have a salad, always a salad. And finally, the beautiful custard that we have here. Remember, the custard, it's only 10% of the calorie in that custard are through fat. It's very light with our fruit sauce on top. And with that, a glass of red wine. We have a Zinfandel here, which for me is a very, very American wine. Very berry, light, sprightly wine. This is a Fetzer from California, and I'm going to enjoy it with my meal. I hope you do that meal for your friend. Be daring. Do things a little bit different. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. I enjoy making it for you. Happy cooking.